Hello, this video is to give you an overview of ACMS, that's the Appeals Case Management System. This is the platform used by state hearings to house all of their cases, and the Appeals Case Management System helps cases go through the entire hearing process, so it's automated somewhat. And I'm just going to go ahead and give you a tour of what you can see in ACMS and just give you a little bit of heads up on what the different parts are and how they're used. So first of all, ACMS is a web-based application, and you can get to ACMS from any web browser as long as you have an internet connection. Knowing that, ACMS is used by both state hearings and all of our business partners that do hearings, and it's also available to the claimants to file hearing requests. Before I dive into ACMS, there is also a video available to you that will walk you through the whole hearing process and give you an overview of the different things that happen once a hearing request is filed and how it goes through a process all the way to the decision. But meanwhile, here we have our system, and as I said, everybody goes here. The claimants can file online using this system. All 58 counties can go in there and look at their cases. We also have Department of Healthcare Services that can go in here and look at their cases, and Covered California as well. So because this is an internet-based platform, there's some security and privacy things that I have to make you aware of. First of all these cases have lots of information about the claimants in them. There are documents that are housed in ACMS that could contain personally identifying information, that's PII, and that's very private information regarding our claimants. It could be financial information, it could be medical information, social security number, things like that, and that type of information needs to remain very private. So just be aware that you have access to that information with your logon. And of course, like I said, there's the health information, and you'll also get training if you're an employee of state hearings regarding PII and regarding HIPAA, which is the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, and that governs medical information. A lot of times here at state hearings, we communicate with our claimants via either email or sometimes written, but a lot of times it's over the telephone. And we want to make sure that you remain vigilant when you're talking about a case to somebody over the telephone. Make sure you're only talking to a claimant or their authorized representative, and you'll find all that information inside ACMS, who the claimant is and who their authorized representative is. And not only getting a name from the claimant or the person you're talking to on the telephone, but maybe verify the information, like get their their case number, maybe their PIN number, their email address or birth date or postal address. Just get one or two pieces of information just to make sure you're talking to somebody that you're supposed to be talking to. So some of the best practices we use when we access ACMS is using specific browsers. We recommend Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge. Those are the best browsers for ACMS. It does work fine on other browsers like Safari or Firefox. We do notice there are some difficulties with some display issues with Internet Explorer, so I recommend that you do not use a Microsoft Internet Explorer browser for ACMS. Also, if possible, I know right now we are all teleworking, so It's tough to get a secure Wi-Fi connection that's only for work, but as long as you're using your NetMotion to log into the CDSS network, then you can consider that private, and you can use that your Wi-Fi connection. Also, don't share your ACMS credentials, your username and password, with anyone, but that should be a given. Let's see. So we do have quite a few support tools for you. Let me put this information up on the screen here so you can see it. We do have a website that has information regarding ACMS, and that's accessible by anyone. And then, of course, there's the ACMS email address, and that's also, if you have any problems with ACMS or if you have a question, you can email that acms@dss.ca.gov, and we will be able to answer that for you. We have a whole team of people that looks at that email, so you should get a response very quickly. And then this technical support line is really for anyone outside of state hearings. If they call that customer service line and press option 6, that leaves a voicemail for my team here at ACMS, and we'll be able to answer those voicemails. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into ACMS finally. So here you see the sign-on screen. Currently, I am in the training environment, not in the live environment, because when I'm showing information on a video, I like to, again, we're looking at PII. I want to make sure that I'm not showing somebody's information that's private. So all of the data that's in our training environment is pretend data. It's not a real person. And I feel very comfortable doing a video here. So let's go ahead and sign in. When you're a new employee, you'll be issued your username and a password, probably a temporary password to start off with, and then it will prompt you to pick your own password. Us in the ACMS team, we do not know what your password is. We have the ability to reset it if necessary, but we don't know what your password is. However, we do know what your username is, and it's 99.9% of the time it's going to be your email address. There's my email address right there. So before I sign on, let me explain some of these links down here. The first one is this create an account. That is only for e-filers or claimants that want to make an account to file an appeal. Any business partners that want an account in ACMS are going to have to contact the ACMS team, and we set them up with a business account. It has a little bit of a different view than, well, actually it has a lot of a different view rather than in e-filer. It has more robust, more information. Also, you can see down here the reset and forgot username, reset password, forgot username. You can use those if you need to reset your password or if you forgot your username. There's also a few links down here at the bottom of the page in this little gray area, and most of them are informational links, and you can feel free to click on some of those if you would like more information about state hearings. But the one I do want to point out to you is this submit an appeal without an account. Now, some people don't want to go through the process of creating an account. They just want to file their hearing request. They don't want to call, they don't want to fax or anything like that. They just want to file it online, but they don't want to make an account. So they can click on this and file an appeal that way. And we call that public intake. So when somebody uses that, you'll notice on their appeal, it'll say how it was filed. It will say e-filed public intake. Okay, so let me go ahead and finally sign in. All right. This page that you first start off in, we call that the home screen. And you'll see a lot of different information. Let me start from the top. The My Account is where you can go and look at your profile, change your password if you need to, and change your preferences, although I don't think there's very much there for preferences. You can give it a try and take a look. And then if you have more than one role, and a lot of people do, some people have the manager role and a staff role. Since I'm an administrator and a trainer, I have all the different roles that are available, but I want to make my role look like your role. So your role is probably going to be SHD staff. So it doesn't look like the screen changed very much, but I can check up here in the right hand corner and you can see my username, which is my email address, and then my role in the parentheses says SHD staff. And then this is just the version of ACMS that we are on. Now back to this side, we have the sign out, and that does exactly what you think it does. It signs you out. And then a help, which gives you some resources for help with ACMS. Then this gray bar across the top is called the navigation bar. And we're on the home screen, so the home is in red. There's also tracking, inbox, search, and reporting. A lot of the times, I believe home is where you usually are. That's where I like to start off with, start fresh. Tracking inbox is very rarely used unless you happen to be one of those people that are going to be inputting appeals into ACMS. Sometimes people use tracking inbox and then hover over appeal and new appeal and create an appeal that way. The other thing I want to show you is right below the navigation bar, you'll see right here it just says home. But as you, let me go into a case here and click into some different fields so I can show you the different breadcrumbs. So right underneath the navigation bar, you'll see some blue clickable links. Let me see if I can do that. Tracking inbox is like home. It'll take you to the home screen. Here's the appeal. That takes you to the main appeal page, issue listing. I happen to be in issues right now, so that's where we are. If you wanted to go back a step, you can always use click on this and it'll take you back to the main appeal page. Or let's just say you want to go home, you can use this. It's probably just easier to click here, but you can give that a try and it'll take you back, well, to the tracking inbox, which is not very helpful. So home. The next thing you're going to see on your home screen is this system-wide broadcast. This is where we put important messages like if ACMS is going down for maintenance, that type of thing. Any very important messages that we want to relay to all of our users are going to be put in this system-wide broadcast box. So as you scroll down, you're going to see claimant profile, and you're going to see submit a new hearing request. Honestly, I don't use those very often, but if you're somebody who is creating a new appeal for someone, if you're entering a written appeal, or maybe you're a phone agent and you're entering an appeal for somebody that's called in, you might use these buttons. The next thing you're going to see down here is the dashboard search. And we have three different kinds. We have claimant search, beneficiary search, and appeal search. And this claimant search is when you're searching for a claimant for an appeal. You can enter their first name, last name, and date of birth. You can enter as many characters. It's going to check for those characters. Now, if I were to hit search right now, which I could, I would probably get a lot of search results because John's a pretty popular name. So you probably want to narrow this down as much as you possibly can and put in a last name and then hit your search. If you happen to know the date of birth, then you can also enter that. But I think something like that should be good enough. And once you hit the search button, your search results will pop up here underneath this dashboard searching box. So here you can see all the claimants whose name is John or has the letters J-O-H-N in it, like Johnetta, and last name is Smith. And then you have lots of other information regarding these particular folks, like their date of birth, their county of residence, the CIN number, preferred language, primary phone, email, username if they have a user account, and things like that. So very helpful. The other box here is a beneficiary search. So sometimes you don't know who the claimant is. Sometimes you do know who the beneficiary is. A claimant might be a parent, and the beneficiary might be a child. So you know who the recipient of the benefit is, so that's the beneficiary, but you don't know who may have filed the claim, which is the claimant. So you can search for that person here. Let me try to see if I can find, let me just try John as a beneficiary. Yep, I do. So I'm looking for a beneficiary named John. And here are my search results, and it looks like there's an appeal right here. It has a case number, but the claimant's name is Melody Babbitt. So where's John at? So let's open that up. And let's look at contact, which is the people on an appeal. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to find a beneficiary on this appeal who has a first name that has J-O-H-N on it. And of course, there's Johnny Smith. All right, and then of course we have the last one. It's an appeal search, and what you're going to be doing is putting in the appeal number. Put as many digits as you can for the appeal number. The more digits, the more refined your search is going to be. So 105.1. Let me put that in there. I'm in the training environment, so oh, it's going to make me enter 5 digits. All right. So here's the appeal that matches that that appeal number right there. And then if I wanted to look at it, just you'll see that it gets highlighted blue when I hover over it. Then I just click anywhere on that line, and it's going to open up that appeal for me. I'll give you a tour of the appeals in just a minute. The next thing after these 3 search boxes, dashboard searching, we have the tracking inbox. That doesn't appear on the live environment, the prod environment. And then we have a whole bunch of different reports that are available at a click. And then the most important part is the queues that you can find at the bottom of this page. So there's a couple of different menus. There's queues, there's rehearing, action requests, scheduling, and troubleshooting and search. I very rarely use this search. I usually go up here and use the dashboard search. But let's look at all these different queues. Case view history is the first one that pops up on this one, and this is like recents. So these are the recent cases that I've looked at. And it's sorted by the timestamp, the most recent on top. I believe. I think I have it sorted that way. Maybe it's sorted a different way here. This is much better. So you can sort based on the timestamp or the case using these little arrows here, or the name. Say you're looking for a recent appeal that you looked at. It's not on this list. You can type in, you remember the person's name was Joelle, and you hit enter, and it will find somebody named Joellen. It'll look for this string of characters. Okay, let me clear that out. The next queue you're going to see is My Cases. I have a few cases here because in the training environment I have all sorts of different roles. You as a state hearing staff member would probably not have any cases. My Cases is usually for judges and for hearing representatives, so you probably don't have any cases that are yours. You work on all the cases, but you might have some assigned tasks. So my assigned tasks are, the tasks are assigned in ACMS, so there's certain things that need to be done. ACMS walks the appeal through the hearing process, and there's this work that needs to be done at certain steps. Those are called tasks. Those tasks can be assigned to a specific person. So if you have a task assigned specifically to you, you're going to find it here in My Assigned Task. And it looks like I have one here for me to do. And I can look at it here and see that I'm supposed to check the open record documents for this task. If I wanted to go in there, I would just need to click on this clickable link for the case number, and it'll take me to the case. It'll probably take me right to this Open Record Documents task and make me resolve that. Now, intake, if you happen to be on the review team, you would probably have an intake task. And these tasks are for the review team to review the different appeals that come into ACMS and just make sure that all the information in them is correct. Decisions being reviewed probably would not be applicable to state hearing staff. It might be applicable to those people who are doing quality assurance on decisions, but usually more seasoned staff do the quality assurance. ADH cases are a particular kind of case. We have a special ADH team that handles ADH cases, so you can just skip over that queue. Same with decision compliance. This is going to be for usually one of the agencies to do. So a decision compliance task is when the judge has ruled some certain thing for the county or one of the agencies to do. It'll appear on this list, and once the county or agency does it, they'll check it off and it comes off of this list. Review open record documents, those are for judges, so you can ignore that as well. Same with the admin dismissal reconsideration task queue. I think that's going to be more for you might have to do this. Admin dismissal reconsideration is when someone has requested a dismissal on an appeal and the judge has said, okay, I'm going to dismiss it. The claimant has 15 business days to say, no, I don't want it dismissed, and here's why I think we should have a hearing. So I believe that's the admin dismissal reconsideration task queue. And exhibits missing an attachment, that's for judges, so you won't have to worry about that. Same thing with rehearing. All of these queues in the rehearing menu are all for our rehearing team, so most of the time you can ignore that. Action requests, though, may be important to you depending on what you have to do, what your assignment is from your supervisor. The different queues that are here, they'll probably go over that with you, which queues you need to look at and which ones you need to work. So I'll leave these queues for your supervisor to tell you which ones you need to look at and how to work them. The scheduling queue, the one thing, if you are a hearing day analyst, you'll be in this menu. Calendars and hearings tells everyone what hearings are scheduled, when they're scheduled, the person's name, all sorts of stuff, what calendar they're on, who the hearing representatives are, who the judge is, and what the modality is. So a lot of people use that calendars and hearings queues just to see what hearings are coming up for a particular day. Troubleshooting, those are special queues that are used to help find data in ACMS that is either missing information or maybe doubled up. So a lot of times you'll need special instructions to work these different troubleshooting queues. So you won't have to really worry about this unless you're assigned to do that. And if you're assigned to do that, then somebody will give you specific directions on what to do. So basically that is your home screen. So now let's go into an appeal. Let me just pick one up here. Let me pick one up that has like a real name. Those ones that you see with the bot, those are auto-generated appeals. Sometimes we need a whole bunch of appeals and we click the button to generate them and they put this funny bot name on there instead of like a real person's name. Okay, so let me go to case view history and let me pull one up that has a person's name on it. Here, let's look at that Melanie Babbitt one. All right, so this is what an appeal looks like. What we have here is some different pages for this appeal. You'll have the appeal, contact, document, hearing, issue, etc., etc. The appeal is like a cover page. It has like general overall information about an appeal, and I'll dive deeper into that in a little bit. The contact tab, I'll click on that. The contact tab has the different people who are involved in a case. So sometimes there's authorized representatives, hearing representatives, backup hearing representatives, beneficiaries, things like that. So all the different people who are part of the case, you can find them here in this contact tab. The document tab is where all the documents live. So it's like the case file. All the different letters that get sent to the person, the statement of position is going to be in here, the decision is going to be in here, so all the documents regarding the case live right here in this document tab. The hearing tab gives you all the hearings in a case. There's no hearings for this case yet, but once this case gets scheduled, then you're going to see a hearing in there. Let me try to find one that has a hearing because it's good to see what that looks like. Let me go into scheduling. I am sure that if I pull one of these cases here, you'll see a hearing. Okay, so let me go back to the appeal. You'll see a couple of extra little tabs on this one because it's actually been scheduled. So this time waiver history log that you see here, if there is a time waiver, somehow a judge has put in a time waiver, you'll see those time waivers reflected in here. And let's see, we were talking about the hearing tab, so let's go to the hearing tab. And this is what it looks like if there is a hearing for this particular appeal. It'll show you the date and the time, who the judge is, the status of the hearing. So this is super helpful. Sometimes you'll see 2 or 3 different hearings, like maybe it gets postponed a few times. Then you'll see it listed here. The issue tab is important as well. You're going to see the issue of the case. This one's a CalFresh case, and it's about EBT, and it's about a denial of EBT. And then, of course, the issue description is going to have this narrative of what the person is appealing, some details why they're requesting a hearing. The note tab is someplace that you'll be going fairly often. Anytime you do something to a case that's not a regular thing, like if they call up to have an AR added to their case, you're probably going to go ahead and do that, and then maybe put a note in here to say that the person called you or emailed you and asked to add an authorized representative to their case. But anything that's outside of the normal process of an appeal, you're probably going to want to put a note in there just so people know what has been happening with this case. The task tab shows you all of the different tasks that have happened on this appeal. The first thing usually is probably a review appeal task, and that's when the case comes into ACMS. Our review team takes a look at it, as I had mentioned earlier, and they make sure that everything looks correct. And this is the task that tells them to do that. And once they're done doing that, they're going to close this task. And looking at this, I already know that somebody has reviewed this appeal and somebody has scheduled this. It was manually scheduled and not put into the automatic scheduling. And it looks like there's still a hearing representative that needs to be assigned to this case for Sacramento County. So Sacramento County has this task on their list that they need to do. The next tab is a workflow log, and this tells you the big process that has happened in the case. So I know that on January 13th, this case was created, and it went to pending review at this time, and then somebody checked the review and it went into pending schedule at this date and time. So you can follow the major steps of a case here in the workflow log. Now the activity log is a little more daunting. It contains every single teeny tiny step that was taken on this appeal. So we know exactly who created a task or created an appeal or changed a hearing date. We know everything. We know exactly when it was done and who did it and what they did and what they changed it from and to. So that helps us quite a bit. Usually we're hoping that the Notes tab will have more useful information, because this can get pretty tough to sort through to figure out what's going on, because it has every little tiny thing. Now the Notifications tab is very helpful. It tells you what notifications have been sent out regarding this case, and it tells you who it was sent to. For example, on January 13th at 1:24, there was a new document notification that got sent to this email address. Or at this date and this time, there's an email notification to the judge that they were assigned to the case. So you can kind of see where these notifications have been going. Let me go back to the appeal page. Now the one thing I do want to mention on the appeal page, the person's name is going to be up at the very top. Let me go find somebody. Let me go find, what is her name again? Melody. Remember Melody Babbitt? Oh, let's get Susan Baker instead. All right. So you can see that the name at the very top of the appeal page is a clickable link. So let's go ahead and click it. So what this does is it takes you to that claimant's profile. Each claimant should have a profile, and in that profile you're going to see the different appeals that they have. This person only has the one. There's some people who have many appeals. You can see that some fields in this profile are required, it has the little red R, and some are optional, as you can tell. And it has all sorts of information, their personal information, like their name, birth date, social security number, Medi-Cal ID, CIN number. Optionally, they can enter their demographic information. We don't usually ask for this information when we take the appeal via telephone. Their language information. What is their language of preference? Do they need an interpreter? Or do they need a sign language interpreter? The next thing is, what is their preferred mode of communication? They have two choices. They can go email address or postal system. This person picked email address. That means the email address becomes a required field. If the person had picked postal system, then all the mailing address fields become required. What is their county of residence? It's either one of the 58 counties, or maybe they don't even live in California. They can put, I don't live in California. The country, United States, or whatever country it is. Their address, again, their email address. And then a phone number. We do require a primary phone number. Most of our hearings these days are via telephone, so we do need a phone number to call them. And then down here you can see who had created this appeal. This was one of those that was an automatic upload, and when that profile was created. Now you can get back to the appeal. by just clicking on it right over here. And we are back. So every appeal has a person attached to it which has a profile. We like to make sure to only have one profile per person. Sometimes there are duplicates. If you happen to notice a duplicate, just let your supervisor know and we can resolve that duplicate. Some staff members are very proficient in being able to resolve duplicate profiles. Here's their case number. We call that the state hearing number, SHN. And they have a PIN as well. That PIN is used to use our interactive voice recognition service. So you can call that 1-800-743-8525, the customer service number, and you'll get a menu tree that will guide you through some different choices. And there are a couple of self-service choices in there, like if they want to find the status of their case, or if they would like to withdraw their case, then they can do that just over the telephone by pushing certain numbers. They would have to enter their case number and they would have to enter their PIN number, and once the system verifies that, then it'll give them information regarding the status of their case or withdraw their case depending on what the person selected. The next thing you're going to see here is what status is this in. This case is probably a brand new case because it hasn't even been reviewed. That's the very first step, is pending review. So the review team is probably looking at this and they're going to check it over, just make sure everything looks correct on this appeal. And then we do have this appeal banner up here that has a lot of pertinent information. Here's the claimant's information, just in case you don't want to click on their name to get all of this. It's right here at your fingertips. Their date of birth, their email address if they have one, and their phone number. Now if their language, they picked a language something other than English, then it's going to appear here, and whether they need an interpreter. So all of that is very handy when you're looking at this case. Also, the hearing information is in the middle part. We can see that this appeal involves El Dorado County, and it's regarding a CalFresh eligibility. So that's the case. If there was a hearing scheduled for this case, it would be marked right here. It'll say hearing, and then I'll have the date and time of the hearing, which is a clickable link that takes you to the hearing in this hearing tab. Now the case history has all sorts of stuff. The first thing you'll see here is a due date. That due date is typically, for most cases, it's 90 days from the date of filing. And then those time waivers can adjust that back and forth if needed. If any postponements were requested, they'd be listed here. If this was an expedited case, it would be listed both here under the hearing information and here under case history. As we scroll down this page, you're going to see this little box off by itself here, and those are associated appeals. Sometimes we have one or two, maybe more appeals that have to do with each other. Maybe each child in a family has an appeal. A lot of times they're grouped together because the judge can hear all those cases for all the different children, because it's pretty much the same circumstance. So those are grouped, and they're usually scheduled together, and the judge hears them all at the same time. So those are associated appeals. Then the appeal status, that pretty much mimics here. This is the pending review. Yes, this is pending review. If there's a reason, it also appears here. Claimant information, we already know about our claimant. Then there's the appeal information, type of hearing request. There's several different types. Verbal and written. There's also e-file and e-file or public intake. So verbal means the person called up, talked to a phone agent, and a phone agent likely filled out this form. Written is when they've submitted a written hearing request and faxed it in, mailed it in, sent it to the county, and the county gave it to us. So these are written requests that we hand enter into ACMS. E-file, if you see e-file on here, the e-filed ones are when the person goes into ACMS, creates an account, and e-files that way. And then e-file public intake is when they use that link on the bottom of the sign-in page that says submit an appeal without an account. you're going to see e-file-public intake. The filing date is the date that they made this request, and that will affect the due date, of course. Rehearing filing date, that's for the rehearing team, so not really applicable. A review task required, usually it should say yes. If you know the notice of action number, you can put that in here. The responsible agency, so Susan Baker, who is our claimant, has wants to appeal her CalFresh eligibility against El Dorado County. So that's what this case is about. If there are any other counties or agencies that are involved in this case, they would be listed here under other involved agencies. If Ms. Baker had indicated that she had a preference for morning or afternoon hearings, that would be listed right here. Ms. Baker has requested an in-person hearing. Those don't really happen nowadays. Most of them are telephone, but we do have several different modalities. We have phone hearings, we have video hearings, which is done through WebEx, and those are the two main ones. In person, we're not doing right now because of the pandemic. We also have on-site video, which is an upcoming modality. It's not in effect yet. And I also have the in-home modality, which is super, super rare. I mean, there has to be a huge reason why the person has to have a judge come to their house. That's very, very rarely. As a matter of fact, I don't think I've ever seen a case that was an in-home case. Hearing representatives. So El Dorado is the county that's representing this case. So you'll probably see a person from El Dorado County listed here as a hearing rep as soon as El Dorado assigns that person. If Ms. Baker, our claimant, had some sort of authorized representative organization representing her, you would see that listed here and in the contact tab. And then this is all optional information regarding their aid paid pending and their continued enrollment for Covered California. This is not required, so very rarely is this completed by the phone agents. And then this is automatically entered in there depending on what the person had put for their county of residence. Oops, let me get back to my appeal here. Sorry. This complexity level is something that the presiding judge would put in there. Let's see, special accommodations. This box is pulled out of their profile. If the person, when they're filling out their profile, says they need some sort of special accommodation like wheelchair access or something like that, then that would appear right here. And then sometimes you'll see the appeal timestamp, like when this appeal was created, down here at the bottom. All right, so that's the tour of this page. I think I talked a little bit already about the time waiver. If there's any time waivers that are done by the judge or from a postponement, they'll all be listed here. There's none for this case. And I briefly went over the contact tab. Like I said before, if you had a contact here, maybe there is a primary hearing representative for El Dorado County. Let's put that person in, and we'll just give them a phone number and hit save so that you can see what that looks like. Okay, so there's the primary hearing representative. There might be an authorized representative. There might be a beneficiary, etc., etc., etc. And then I already talked about the document tab. I'm going to go into a little bit deeper dive here. Actually, I'm going to refer you to my how to handle documents in ACMS training video. It's a short one that tells you all about this document tab, how to read documents, how to upload documents, how to look at the metadata for a document. So I'm going to refer you to the document a video for training on this. We already talked about hearing and issue and notes and everything else here. So there you go regarding the appeals. Let's see, what else do I need to tell you? There is also a training video tutorial on if you're uploading appeals. So let's say you're going to be a phone agent, or you're going to be working for customer service as somebody who inputs the appeals from a written request. There is a video tutorial that shows you step by step how to do that. So I'm going to refer you to that if that is a task that you need to do for your job. You would never have to assign a hearing rep. That's something that our business partners do. You might need to update information on a claimant. Let's just say Ms. Baker emails or calls and says, I need to update my address. So you're going to go to her profile, and you're going to slide down to the address, and you're going to put in, she says, no, I'm not on Todd's Lane anymore. I live on 123 Elm Street in South Lake Tahoe. So you're going to hit save. You put in the new address. You're going to hit save. You're going to say, yes, go back and update that, because it's going to check to make sure you use the right syntax for your address. And then the other thing you can do is look at this address history right up here. This is handy. And you can look at all the person's past addresses. And I do not know why my 123 Elm Street did not save. Probably because I said I needed to go back and fix it. Let me try again. 123 Elm Street. I'm going to hit save. Most of the times when you see that pop up, you're going to say yes. But this time, I made up this address, so it probably doesn't appear in the USPS database. So there you go. So the current address and the past address. That's super handy. All right, so what's something else you might do? Let's see. Working with documents, I already said we have a video tutorial on working with documents. We actually have a video tutorial on how to do the claimant profile as well. It goes in depth on that claimant profile and how to make changes. I also have a video tutorial on, let me get to an appeal here, on tasks. All the different tasks that can happen in an appeal, how they work, when they pop up, when they're available. So I would recommend you go look at the using tasks in ACMS. It says for county and RA users, but it's really helpful for state hearing staff to also view that. And there is also a video tutorial regarding that, the phone, the interactive voice recording options. And it talks about all of the different things you can do on IVR and the menu. There is a video tutorial also on the calendars and hearings queue that talks about how to manage your hearings. Let's see. And all those cues that I talked about on the home page, there's a video tutorial on that as well that goes in depth, pretty much saying everything I already just told you at the beginning of this. And I think that pretty much concludes the overview of ACMS. If you do have any other questions, I do recommend, let me pull up the channel. Let's see here. There we go. So these are all the different videos, the training videos that we have that's available to you. The e-filer view, this video down here shows you what the e-filer sees. It's a completely different view from what you see. How to do searches in ACMS, that's kind of handy. That's for judges. How to file an appeal in ACMS, that is for e-filers. So if somebody needs to know how to file an appeal, that is an appellant or a claimant. Submitting an appeal for county users, but that it works the same way for staff, for state hearing staff. Working with documents, that's going to show you how to upload a document, how to view a document, change a document, things like that. That's very handy there. That's not very pertinent, neither is that. Using tasks, this one. Using tasks in ACMS, that's really helpful. It shows you all the different tasks, how they work. Assigning hearing reps is for counties. Claimant profile, that tells you about the profile. ADH case, don't worry about that one. Using the calendars and hearings queue, that might be helpful. Home screen queues, that's the one I was talking about earlier, that's helpful. Beginning ACMS for new users, that is very similar to this video. How to use Acrobat Pro, you probably may need that later on. Let's see what else. How to create a user account for SHD staff, that's good. SharePoint, how to use SharePoint, that's not really ACMS related, but that might help you as well. Anyways, feel free to go through any of these different videos that you have available to you here. I did make a playlist for staff. So if you go to SHD staff right here and look at your playlist, these are all the different video tutorials that I think would be super helpful when you're first hired on as an SHD staff. All right, well, I think that concludes my training for ACMS. If you do have any questions, please be sure to send your inquiries to acms@dss.ca.gov. Thank you.